in a small town, the more you know the ins and outs of what's going on in the community. Like I'm an auctioneer as well. So when I am the MC for these charity events, and the thing is, the people that are bidding, I know who they are.
That was another thing I wanted to touch on, the mental health aspect of operating radio stations. How do you guys take care of yourselves? Drink. Ready to go see some friends? Go see a radio station? Are you ready? Are you ready, bud? Okay. This is going to be a first. This is the very first Radio Is Not Dead podcast. So it's the inaugural. And I'm very pleased and honored that it's my friends, Sanford and Terry Cohen, who own, 9 or 11 radio stations here in Arizona. Kismet and I are in Prescott, Arizona today to do the first of what hopes to be a series of me visiting radio stations and giving you a perspective of the city or the community through the lens of the radio station. So Prescott Valley, Arizona is about, 5,000 feet in elevation and a population of, we're going to find out. I'm going to ask Sanford and Terry some very specific questions about their community, about their market, about how they serve their community, what they do with their radio stations, what their background is. And let's have some fun. Radio people are fun people. I'm just standing here. I got out here a little bit early today because I actually wanted to check out a campground it has long-term opportunities. And it's like, I'll be looking for somewhere to go next summer. This summer, I'm going to be back east, but next summer, I might want to be back in this area. And this campground offers long-term camping. And first of all, it attracted me because the name of the park is Orchard RV Park. So I had to go check it out. And also years ago, my dad and I, the history of the relationship between the Cohens and the Orchards will come up in our conversation. But years ago, Dad and I were inspecting Sanford and Terry's radio stations, and it was my first time out here to Prescott, Arizona. And I fell in love with the place. It's very mountainous, very green, very pretty. It's got enough country, but enough city to suffice or to satisfy my needs. And I had told them, years from now, when you guys need a manager, hit me up. I'd love to move out here and work here. And it's not that I'm looking for a job. I'm not. But I would definitely consider retiring here and hanging out with the Cohens and playing radio with them in the future when the time comes. But I'm nowhere near ready to settle down. But it is interesting to come full circle now, so many years later, thinking about the opportunity or the prospect of actually when the time comes for me to settle down, or I need a cooler place to hunker down for the summer months, because I seem to know a lot of people in Arizona, and it's still close to family, close enough, but it's still less expensive than Southern California. So it seems like a really reasonable alternative for me. So we'll find out more on that. This is the first podcast that I'm doing in this manner where I'm actually having a conversation and interviewing with somebody. So I don't have the equipment that a normal podcaster might have. So I'm improvising with my laptop and my cell phone. I had actually wanted to buy a camera. It was something that I had discovered at the NAB show, just a little handheld thing with a microphone attached to it. And it's really cool, but it's $700. And I thought, okay, I got to wait for my budget to clear up so that I can purchase this camera. And then what happens? The dog needs some veterinary care, and there goes the money for the camera. So the camera's going to have to wait a little while. I'm really curious and eager to learn how Sanford and Terry are perceiving this in their own mind on what they would like to talk about. They know me and they know how I operate and they know my history and I know their history. So this is different than any other station visit that I'll probably make because I've known these people for, I don't even want to say how long, but we will find out when they put the radio station on the air because it's been a little bit longer than that. I am looking forward to this chat with Terry and Sanford and just find out all the magical, wonderful things that they do in their community with their cluster of radio stations. We're going to learn about their format. We're going to learn about how they operate. I got Kismet with me, and he's going to be part of the whole entourage of today. It's going to be interesting. So stay tuned and find out what happens when I meet Prescott Valley, Arizona broadcasters and do the very first Radio Is Not Dead podcast. As I said earlier, I was in the parking lot just getting some secret footage, and this is now Sanford Cohen and his wife Terry Cohen, the owners of these radio stations, which are on the wall behind us. Snuck in a little dead air action back there. We have, first of all, thank you guys, for agreeing to be my guinea pigs. Several times they've been my guinea pigs. And so I wanted to first just introduce you, who you are, how you get started in radio, and especially we are in Prescott Valley, Arizona. And you guys are you Arizona's hometown radio group still?
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arizona's hometown radio group. We started with one station in 1985, and our first FM antenna was mounted on the telephone pole next to the studio. Lake Green Acres. And Prescott Valley had all of 3,200 people in one paved road. But nowadays, it has got over 50,000 people.
Oh, you put your first station on the air in 1985. How many do you have now?
I have 11.
11. All right. So tell them about your 11 radio stations.
The 5 that are here in the Prescott area start with our first one, our firstborn, the KPPV. Is the mix. It's the Antwerp station, adult contemporary. It's the first radio station that Prescott Valley ever had, and we gave birth to it. You're still running it. 40 years later, this September, as a matter of fact. Then we got a local AM station that went dark, and we programmed that to do talk shows and stuff like that, and that's KQNA. And shortly after that, we were blessed to have the initial affiliation with the Arizona Diamondbacks to carry the baseball games, and we have carried every single Diamondbacks game since the start of the season in 1998 without fail. And then we also bought out a competitor and changed it to Classic Country. So that's Cattle Country 94.3 and 100.7. A little bit later on, we added Jack FM 94.7. And then finally, our 5th and final station for up here is Juan, the Juan and only. It's the only Spanish station in northern Arizona, and it broadcasts on Juan 06.5.
Now, all your stations, for the non-radio people, they are licensed to different communities, different cities.
Yeah, most of them include Prescott Valley as one of the communities of license, but by and large, they are all centered in Prescott Valley, Cottonwood. Jack FM being the one exception. We just got a brand new signal on top of Mormon Mountain, and that's 100,000 watt FM that covers Flagstaff and Sedona, and we gave it the call letters KJXL, which stands for Jack Extra Large.
Nice. I love it. You have stations in Bullhead City and Lake Havasu.
We do. We branched out into Parker initially, and that station eventually became our first Jack FM, a 95.7, and then it also operates a translator. Yeah, it also operates a translator in Kismet and Golden Valley on 99.5. And shortly thereafter, we added 3 more stations. We had Badass Blues, KXBB 101.7, KDAM 103.1, Best Damn Radio on the River, KGMM. And then most recently, we added another Jack FM, this one, a separate one that covers Bullhead City, Laughlin, and Fort Mojave. It is known as KIDD, the new kid in town, 103.9.
Did you mention Jill?
And then there's Jill. I have so many ones I can't keep track of.
That's right. Jill, what about Jill? Let's hear you talk about Jill. Jill is classic rock.
106.3, and that's been on the air a couple of years. But yeah, we ended up with Jack, Jill, and the kid, the first family of radio on the.
I love it.
And there's one more station, the one in the Grand Canyon. It's Travel Radio, KRGO 102.5. It's unique in that it programs strictly travel information. So It's basically for people visiting the Grand Canyon, or when you leave the Grand Canyon, it gives you suggestions on where else you can.
We're connected. 'Cause this is not, like I said earlier, this is not your typical radio station visit. I have known the Cohens since I even hinted before they put on their first radio station. How did that happen? It's all because
Yeah, we were in Atlanta at the time, and I was hosting a talk show, and I got in the habit when I had a guest inevitably that would cancel at the last minute. I would go into Broadcaster Yearbook, and I'd just try to find somebody, anybody that I could call that was connected with a news story, just see if I could get them to do a 15, 20-minute interview live on the radio. And they were always willing to help us out, which was great. And so this one particular time, I have no idea what I'm looking for. I just know I don't have much time. And so I came across this one listing in Broadcaster Yearbook where everybody that worked at this one radio station had the same last name, but all different first names. And so I figured it's got to be a family business. So I would call and see if I could do an interview with whomever at this radio station in Victorville, California, which I didn't know from a hole in the wall, and see if I could get them to do an interview about what it's like to run a family business and boss around your kids, the whole bit. And so this is how I met Ken Orchard. He was so gracious, willing to come on the air literally with a moment's notice. It was 20 minutes warning. And we did a nice interview. And during the interview, he told me the story about how he was an engineer at KHJ in Los Angeles and discovered how you allocate frequencies to new communities and then apply for them and start your own radio station. And so after the interview was over and my show was over, I called Ken afterwards just to thank him for doing the interview. And I said, so how does that thing work again with your getting frequencies and getting your own station? And so he sent me a copy of his application for Victorville, and that applies for the new frequency. You can count on spending at least $10,000 for an attorney to carry you through this entire process. Getting to know Ken Orchard and finding him out of the Broadcasting Yearbook, it changed our lives. It set us on a path that we would never have been able to accomplish on our own. And it's just amazing to this day. I have a picture of myself with Ken right behind my desk. I can never forgive him or for getting us into this crazy business.
Sanford was the very first person to take a picture with the postcard. This is actual book now with the postcard. So I'll show the picture. I'm going to bring this picture into this video. So he's holding the picture, and behind him is the picture of him and my dad. Sanford was the very first person to help me with the book promotion marketing, and my dad was right over his shoulder helping out, as usual. And it's just like, how does that happen?
Yeah. I have reflected on this many times of how I just picked that name out of the book and just.
And that was what year? Because you said you put your station on in 85. So how?
That was 1981.
Right. Yeah, we had just been on the air. I do remember you and Terry coming to the station at one point, and it was when we were still on Civic Drive. So that would have been in that before you went on the air, or maybe you before getting ready.
Yeah, Ken hooked us up with all of his pals. There was Earl from Texas that sold these used Schaefer 903 automation systems with the big reel-to-reels on them.
Okay, so let's fast forward, because now you started with one in the early 80s. Now you have 11, and you still love it. We have all these different formats. And how do you keep up? How do you run 11 radio stations?
It's a family business. We do it 24/7.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's the thing about radio, is it is 24/7. When do you sleep? When do you vape?
Yes, it is both a blessing and a curse, because this does allow us the opportunity to remotely tap into any and every computer that we have in all of our locations at any time, and we can press a play button and off we go. So the automation part of this has really been fantastic, but it also means that I'm responsibility for keeping 11 stations on the air.
I remember asking you once, was like, so are you still working in safety? You don't think I'm a broadcaster? I'm gonna catch a ray. And yes, please. But you're like the mom of this family.
You know, when we had our daughter, that's when we started having Terry become more parental in general, not just a her, but the staff.
Okay.
too.
I sold initially and did the billing and
Wait,
all the early
For
stuff.
those of you who don't understand, sold means that she sold advertising for clients.
Oh,
If I were telling you, so when I said something to somebody else, I'm going to market my book to radio people. He looked at me and goes, what are radio? Does she want? I realized our language doesn't really translate very well. So when you sold it, what did you sell? So you sold advertising first when you first got started.
Yeah.
For how many years though?
It had to be over 4 because once we had our daughter, I would take her on sales calls. And I had some clients that would not see me if you weren't there.
then she had
I had the baby and the dog with me.
Perfect. I love that. The ultimate family radio. This is the ultimate, what they call the mom and pop radio stations. And I love that. That is the grassroots, which is why, I'm calling this radio is not dead. I know that technology, and we're not going to get into technology. I know you're really heated about that, Derek, is Sanford, but this is that radio is very much alive in your community, right? In your community, because
What we see, which is very impactful on the local level, but not so much on the national level. And that is, we don't really compete against local television. And the here is so small that literally,
you're it.
we are it.
So what are some, I want to know
How many we belong to? How many chambers?
A whole bunch.
All right. Well, name them.
A whole bunch. Well,
Can you name them?
make sure I got them all. Okay. Well, the Prescott Chamber, I'm the chairman of the Prescott Chamber Foundation. Prescott Valley Chamber, I'm past president of the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce. We're also members of the Chino Valley Chamber, the Cottonwood Verde Valley Chamber, the Donut Chamber, Flagstaff Chamber. We are also members of Arthur Chamber of Commerce, Lake Havasu City Chamber of Commerce, Laughlin Chamber of Commerce, Bullhead City Chamber of Commerce.
Do a lot with your chambers of commerce.
We do. We're involved in a lot of their events, the planning. I'm the default MC for a lot of the chamber events and that communities we're talking about.
But that's what this is so important, because you really have your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your community because of your involvement with these chambers.
And what's so funny about it is that the social media people that want so bad to be us, they can't do it because the limitations of social media are so obvious once you get involved in bringing people together in groups to talk about their businesses and their events. It's called Talk of the Town, and we feature a different town every day. So on Mondays, 2 times of the month, we'll do Chino Valley. The other 2 times, Sedona and Cottonwood. Tuesday is always Prescott Valley Day. Wednesday is always Prescott Day. And then Thursday is my show. That's my Talk of the Town, the round table, where we get a chance to speak to people of interest, political people, authors, stuff like that. And that's my little piece of the action.
That's how you're still doing what you used to do 45, 50 years ago.
And then we do a sports show on Fridays. Our sports show has been on the air for 32 years.
You should have had Kelly on today.
I know, I'm right here. Dude, what's up with that?
We'll go back on.
Okay. Yeah. But that just struck with me is that why did you get into radio in the first place? Way back when in Atlanta?
It started in 8th grade, actually. I used to do the morning announcements in junior high school. So I would tell you what's for lunch today and what time the chess club meets and all that kind of stuff. And that was just something I always had an interest in, had a talent for, being able to speak extemporaneously without notes. That's something that is very hard to find these days. And again, that's where the social media people that would love to be able to step into my shoes and do what I do, they can't do it without a script.
Well, even what is that word?
Extemporaneous.
See, he said that off the cuff. I'd have to write that down and pronounce it a few times first.
That's not extemporaneous.
It's not very extemporaneous. Now I can say it.
And the other thing that, you're so long, for years, that So many of the people that I'm seeing in the audience are people that I've known since the day they got here.
Yeah.
So I can always pull something out of my memory about, I remember when we were at the grand opening of the such and such, and you dropped your coat, and I then help you bring it up, that kind of stuff, which normally, so what? But in a small town, the more you know the ins and outs of what's going on in the community, like I'm an auctioneer as well. So when I am the MC for these charity events, I will also get up and I will auction off prizes and gift baskets and things like that. And the thing is, the people that are bidding, I know who they are. Come on, Jim, you could do better than that. So yeah, it is definitely a corner of the market that is not currently being able to be replaced by social media.
Now,
and
like,
doing.
you make radio special in your community, is what you guys do. That's one of the things I love most about the small market or the independent broadcaster is that you get the fact that you have a license to serve this community and you're doing it.
And I've never been a fan of Jock in the Box, where you basically just plug something in and because how do you do a live remote when you don't have a personality involved with your radio station? Do you just show up with a table and a tent and put a speaker on the table?
Yeah, seeing that with a couple of interns, promotions, sitting out on their phone, waiting for somebody to come by. I've seen that a million times.
No, we can't do that. Yeah, we can't do that. We enjoy what we do, and we try to make people feel like they're a part of what we do, which they are. They really are.
So personal, like just like aside from the radio station, what are your hobbies? Like, please don't say radio 24/7. You've got other hobbies.
One thing I do is I like to ride my side by side in the woods and get as far away from the radio stations as I can. Although I do get notified when I am out doing that, but it's not a big deal. I can whip the phone out, I can flash into my computer and do whatever voodoo I need to do. But the fact is, without that ability, I would have to be there doing it. So it does allow me a goodly amount of freedom. Same thing as in playing golf. If I'm in a golf tournament and I get notified that one of the radio stations has a burp, I can get on there, I can unburp it, and the people I'm playing with, it's like, how did you do that at work when
You
you
didn't
really
really play with me.
Playing golf with you?
And when you're riding, I'm the one that calls him if something goes wrong. We are. And then he takes care of it because I'm listening.
She is quality control. She is quality control big time.
For all of the stations, aren't you?
Well, I funny because I usually have my favorites. And then while I'm just poking around, sure enough, I'll hit something. And even though I don't listen to that particular station all the time.
How do you monitor 11 stations?
We don't. They will call us when there's a problem.
Yeah.
And we've had they call them majors.
We have our friends that call it. Hey, you just played yesterday's weather. Oh, hey girls.
Time work.
Luckily in Arizona, the weather's usually the same day of day out.
Funny.
So, how about your staff? You have, yeah, and you told me earlier you have 9 salespeople working for you.
I do.
You have 25 people. So, how many are on air?
7 or 8.
Zuni, you have a live morning show? Or...
Yeah, each station does some sort of live broadcasting in the morning. And that's the real connection, the local connection between small market radio and small market radio stations.
Yeah.
And don't be in such a big hurry to go to Jock in the Box because you don't realize how much that connection benefits you throughout the broadcast day, not just in the morning.
I'm pulling into a town. I find their local radio station on my radio dial. And all of a sudden I know who the important businesses are. I know what's going on. I know where things are happening. And that is what I love about it, is that local radio really does have a place with some right.
On the other hand, because of our ability to stream our radio stations on the internet, you can actually take your favorite radio station from our community of license and you can listen to it anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. We've listened to these stations in Israel. I have gone on my computer from Israel and pushed a play button to get the radio station back on the air.
We were at a wine event and their equipment.
Right, so the city blew up. So I said, okay, let's for a radio. We put Badass Blues on, and they listened to that throughout the entire wine event.
So let me ask you, so then what would happen if you're, whatever that does this is a remote control? So that remote control got unplugged, you'd be dead in the water, wouldn't you? Because it's like, that's what happens in dead air.
Oh, we'd have dead air.
We'd have dead air. Yeah. But that's the point. I know and understand and appreciate, obviously, the technology. That I just reverse engineered it. Literally, what would happen if?
Well, I will tell you, one of the things that we have had the hardest time training our staff about is to know the difference between silence and off the air. So if they call us up and say, we've got dead air, I have to ask them, is it silence or is it only out there? And still, because usually when they're contacting me, they're in a panic. They don't necessarily remember what I taught them.
But either way,
this actually teaches it in the very first chapter.
And either way, you don't like nothing.
Staff is like a family. How long has the person who's been here the longest time worked for you?
Bill Monroe's been with us for 32 years.
Bill Monroe is your...
Three. He's done his reports.
Third, just long term.
Yep. We hired him as an intern when he graduated high school and was in community college. And he's worked for us ever since. Then our general sales manager has been with us 23 years.
And we've had people retire.
Yeah. That was the weirdest thing. We have people work for us over 20 years and retire from here.
That's
we have announcers that have been with us 17 years, 15 years, 14.
How are you so fortunate with that?
We used to be employees. We know what it's like to work for bad bosses. And so we have made it our life's work not to be bad bosses.
To take good care of your people.
I don't have to stand over somebody's shoulder and go, you know, Phil, I don't think there. You know, they beat themselves up far worse than I ever could. So I'd say, don't worry, we all make mistakes.
Now, you didn't mention a program director, so are you the programmer, basically?
Her mind. Terry programs the AM station, KQ&A. She picks the talk show hosts. And then when we have different ideas for programming and stuff, we always talk about it collaboratively, come up with.
So you two are the programs.
And Badass Blues, you did it totally.
Yeah, that's your idea.
And it's either from our collection of music and extras.
That was definitely an art project. I had done so many stations where the format was provided and we just localized it. And there was no blues station in Arizona. And we got active with the blues community, got to know the musicians. By the way, the definition of a blues musician is someone who takes a $500 car with $1,000 worth of equipment and drives 100 miles to make $50. That's a blues musician. And these guys are just devoted to keeping the music alive. And so we have this station that is our labor of love.
And on the board.
Yeah, they appointed me to the board of the Arizona Blues Hall of Fame. And yeah.
Very cool. All right, so how big is that signal for the Badass Blues? I know you have the app, but the broadcast.
It's in Lake Havasu City, so it covers everywhere from Quartzsite to Parker to Lake Havasu to I-40. And so it's still very much a local station for Lake Havasu, but thanks to the internet, we went ahead and we secured a bunch of domain names. So you can go online to badassbluesbullhead.com, badassbluesprescott.com, badassbluessedona.com, badassbluesarizona.com. And you can get the online streaming version of Badass Blues on any mobile device.
I wanted to get a different camera, but
We're the guinea
is
pigs.
that, yeah, they're the guinea pigs. So we're figuring it out. I'm not even, I don't know how this is going to work out. When the dog is, you're still in the show. Never work with animals or radio people because they take the show. I remember you telling me a story. I came out to visit and you had just launched the Badass Blues and you said you were out in your yard or something. Your neighbor came up, looked at you and said, "Hey, I've been listening to the Badass Blues. Do you know whose station that is? There's something about he didn't know that it was you." Yeah.
I was in Havasu.
Oh, Bert?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like our neighbor, this Steve says, I just found this new Badass Blues station. You know anything about it? You know the voice that you hear on Badass Blues?
That'd be me.
When you disguise it, you try to be cooler.
I enhance my voice and do some production, little training and stuff like that.
Stuff sound a little more smoky. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
But you have to turn the volume way up in order to that listenable level. But yeah, it's really, the first concert I ever saw was in 1969 at Cobo Hall in Detroit. I was 13 years old. The headline was Three Dog Night. They played with a local band called Frost, and the opening act was John Mayall. And I'd never heard of John Mayall, didn't know anything about him. And that's where my interest in blues music started at age 13. And I became a devotee to blues music. Also like everything. I like jazz, country, rock, pop, bubblegum, Motown, you name it. I grew up. Came to music, Doug Kershaw. So that and the ability in a small market to have met so many talented musicians over the years. Because in a big city market, if you're not one of the top 2 or 3 stations, you don't get any private time with these performers. But here in Prescott, we've had so many fantastic performers over the years that we've gotten to spend time with. Stephen Stills, Wayne Newton, Jefferson Airplane. It's just so cool because on the one hand, you get to know some of these people briefly because they're doing this Brad and Grin stuff all over the country, all
Right.
over the world.
Wow. So you get a picture of him as a big deal. They don't remember you.
But then you'll have like a Wynton Marsalis. Wynton Marsalis didn't want us to leave. He was chewing our ear off, and we were talking about New Orleans and baseball and everything else you could think
BB
of.
was the same way.
And Russell Tompkins Jr., the original lead singer of the Stylistic, he loved us. We love him.
Okay, I love you too. And what I'm seeing, okay, so during this little interview, what I've learned about you is that you started out with a love of connecting with people when you were in 8th grade doing the morning announcements for your junior high school. But you also have a very strong passion for music.
Oh, yeah.
So being in radio was like, there was no other path for you.
I just didn't have the discipline to sit and practice and learn an instrument. I was able to perform with a harmonica. For you blues people, that's called a harp. And I have performed live with it and done some singing and so forth. So yeah, I definitely love music. I always have a tune going through my head 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never without one. And I get these earworms. And so I will hear the same song playing like day after day. So that will account for why I'm a little bit nuts. I just love a musician. I bond with musicians. I speak their language. I talk to them about, do you realize that when you perform, even though you're like 70-something years old, that the people that you're performing for are made to feel like they're reliving their teenage years all over again? You know how special that is? And it's like, well, I never really thought, I guess that's why we do it. I say, absolutely, that's why you do it. Yeah, because the one thing that in the applause and the adoration and all that kind of stuff, but Kids just really like playing music. They love that is how we decided that what we wanted to do together was own a radio station.
We wanted to work together because we would talk to each other on the phone, him at his job, me at mine.
What
And
job were you doing then?
let's see. It was a number of ones. I was selling.
So you were in radio already?
No, I was selling for something else. I was originally at my degrees in advertising,
Okay.
illustrate. So I took classes in advertising.
Okay.
And I was working actually for,
Nursing dispatch service,
but also,
and then a plumbing supplies company.
yeah, and then the catalog company.
Yep.
And you would be either at radio stations, TV station, or in men.
The
You worked in
medical
medical
latex company.
Yeah, we had many jobs, so we knew about having many different kinds of bosses. So that touched from what you asked earlier about how you treat our employees. But and we said we want to work together. It would be better if we just were working together. Or what can we do? And we did a list of all the things that we could do, or what we liked, and it came out that we should own a radio station.
We like music, we like news,
Or
or
advertising.
Perfect. So then how did you, it was Prescott just, that's where the frequency was that you found?
Yeah, but
Pretty much?
what really was stunning was that this was before cell phones and before the internet. So when you call the FCC to ask them what frequencies are available in the community, and so we started talking with Gassan Kalik, who we eventually developed an ongoing relationship with for many years, and hearing our story. And he said, I'm about to get a brand new vacant FM database. How about if I send you the old one? The old one's not old, it's just a month old. And so in from the mail comes this book like thick.
Yep.
And so we just started looking at all the vacant FM database.
And where we would like to live.
So we had applied for a bunch in Florida, but we checked out the one in Arizona and we decided let's look at the two that they had available. The first one was in Ajo, which is a little outpost south of Tucson or north of the border. And so we called them and their phone was disconnected. Ajo Chamber of Commerce, their phone was disconnected. So we called the Prescott Valley Chamber of Commerce. That was the other frequency. Oh, we're one of the fastest growing communities in the Southwest. Our population's doubled over the last 5 years. Really? How many people live there? 3,200. And I had 1,000 people in my graduating class in high school.
Yeah.
And Terry's from a small town. So she was a lot more at ease with the small town ways in which things happen. And I came out here in I had the conversation with your dad, and then I came out to Prescott Valley in 1982 to check it out. We went ahead and applied for it, and the day before Thanksgiving, 1984, is when I got a call from the executive secretary to Chief Administrative Judge Joe Stormer, and she read me the order over the phone. We hereby grant Prescott Valley Broadcasting Company the permit to build Prescott Valley's first radio station. Fell to our knees and just cried, could not believe it that we actually got
it.
And now we go, uh-oh.
What do we do now?
We have to move.
You have to move. Did you have your daughter yet?
No.
Oh,
She was
no.
born here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Terry was following me in the Firebird going through one of the worst snowstorms
We were
in
driving
the
a
history of the
U-Haul.
South. And I'm driving a U-Haul, and her car spun out off the bridge coming across the Mississippi from Vicksburg into Louisiana. And I kept going because it was dark out and I couldn't tell.
We sleep.
And finally I stopped, and 2 or 3 cars went by, neither of which were hers. And I'm like, oh, I don't like this. So I went looking for a place in the median to turn around and got the truck stuck So instead, I hopped out. I've got my sneakers on and my sweatpants and sweatshirt because I was dressed from Georgia, and ran the wrong way down I-20 looking to see where her car was. There was this big truck that was parked on the side of the road. And I said, "Do you see one in the Firebird, the brown Firebird?" "Yeah, she's back there." I said, "Is she okay?" "I don't know." So I run back there. This is like a quarter of a mile. And she's there. She's got her dog with her. And she spun out off the bridge, and a truck to trailer had jackknifed just before that. And so her spin off landed just right this close, the back end of her car to the truck. And so we had a Hollywood-like reunion at that point. Tow truck got the Firebird out, went down to where my truck was, towed.
They closed the highway
Yeah.
after me.
Yeah.
After I spun off.
And then we crawled into Delta, Louisiana, and spent 2 nights there. And then ended up in First Shreveport, Louisiana, into Marshall, Texas. And her windshield wipers motor burned out. So we had to stay overnight while they drop shipped the wiper motor to the local dealership in Marshall, Texas.
Keep in mind, there were no cell phones.
Right.
So I'm still behind him, and I have my hand out with the long windshield scraper, trying to go like this, and I'm crying because he's still driving, and I gotta keep up. And my dog is coming over to me and licking me because I'm crying. But then he finally pulled over, thank God, because then I could pull over and say, "Why didn't you stop my behind? No, it was in the music. We're going to build a radio station. I'm excited."
Ironically, though, by going through all of that hugabugga to get to Prescott Valley, as difficult as it was to get the radio station on the air,
Yeah.
we were not phased at all by the multiple delays and the wrong equipment shipping and equipment not working and all that stuff.
And
We just laughed it off.
I'm quitting from the staff.
That was another thing I wanted to touch on, the mental health aspect of operating radio stations. How do you guys take care of yourselves?
We drink.
Many people do.
All right. Well, no,
Go just it.
actually, they're very level-headed people.
We usually each have a glass of wine, and then we split a second glass. And that's where we're stuck.
That's only like the last number of years. We did 40 years of just being.
Oh, because of my boss at Gannett. My boss at Gannett at 11 Alive gave me the best advice on how you succeed in business. He said, "Sanford, there are 3 key elements to surviving in business. Endure." And he was right. You have to literally just endure what is put in front of you.
And what emergency just happened on his phone that he just tucked away?
That's the engineer.
Oh no, it's not we're at the end.
But I had to say, no, because it's a family business.
Depends.
It's the engineer. Yeah, you do
Take
have
it.
to take it.
Hey, Mark.
You're on a podcast.
I am. Why? Oh, well, I'll do that. You forgot to do it earlier, and I put it down. I'll take care of it. Your secret is safe with me.
So the ultimate aim, an owner's job is never done, even in a podcast. Even in just a...
All right. Thank you again for fixing the microphones so that our guests can be heard on the air.
And I could stop being angry about it.
Okay. But
The other thing I wanted to say about how do we get through it and endure
Yeah.
it is because it is a family business and we have each other.
Yes.
So when it's not, "Honey, how was your day?" It's, we had the similar day.
Yeah.
And so when
You don't need to
when
talk.
so when you do these things together, it makes it a lot easier.
The partnership, I think, is fun. I also think that because you guys are so involved in your community, you don't have time to sit and stew in problems because you're actually out there solving problems and helping people. And that's also really good for your mental health. If you don't know what to do, help somebody else. Because when you help somebody else, it makes you feel better. So even when you're stressed out, it's like, oh, but I'm going to go to this chamber function. I'm going to do an MC. That makes you feel better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even though you might have had stress earlier, now all of a sudden your whole mindset is changed.
My contribution
Right.
to the community, because there's plenty of people out there that can raise money just by making phone calls and stuff like that. Not everybody can stand in front of an audience and do auctioneering and remember who had the last bid and how much it was and what the next bid is supposed to be, and going back and forth between the two and trying to, that's how you create an auction. You get people bidding against one another.
Yeah, no wonder they want you coming back all the time. They need more money with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to add? So if you were looking at this, and this is not necessarily people who work in radio, but just general people, what would you want to say about your love of radio and love of what you do?
First of all, I think that most people take the radio station for granted. I was told years ago that it's like a light bulb. The only time you notice it is when it's burned out. So the fact the radio station is there and all you have to do is turn it on. We play all the music. You don't have to remember a password. You don't have to give us your personal information. Our device will not spy on you. All these great things that radio stations provide. Plus, you have a 100% guaranteed positive message about your business, because in social media, you could be followed by a bad review. You could be followed by revenge from an ex-employee. It's the Wild West out there, and we're the safe space.
What I love about a 60-second commercial, it's the same size no matter who's buying it. So your competitor can also only buy a 60-second commercial. Now, what would you say to the audience who thinks that there's too many commercials on radio?
We try to make the commercials themselves part of the show so that we don't settle for just boring, fact-laden, brochure-sounding kinds of ads. Our ads tend to be more personality-driven, designed to create curiosity about a business, make people curious enough to want to walk in, call, or click, or a target search. And those are the reasons why we spend so much time and effort on creative, because I'll tell you, I hear so many times in so many markets at the highest levels, go to Blank Electric for all your electric needs.
I heard it today.
Oh my
several
God.
times.
And if that's the most creative thought you can have, you have just wasted 10 seconds of that person's time and money. And we will not do it. We will not
I
do it.
hear it. I've been saying in Phoenix, I've been hearing that exact same thing
a lot.
on our radio station. Yep, it's a problem. Yeah. So the creativity is, so you're a communicator, you're a music lover, you're creative, you love your community. What else is there about you guys?
We also don't sleep.
Yeah, pretty
Yes. Yeah, being in a 24/7 business, that kind of suits.
Yeah.
And we like to travel and we like to eat.
Yeah.
And so the best friend that a radio station ever had was a restaurant.
Because you could trade out.
Not only that, but I do not know with any kind of certainty when people are thinking about furniture or jewelry or legal help or dentistry or anything else. But I do know for an absolute fact that people think about food 3 times a day, 7 days a week. What other media is there that you could put your message on when you know for a fact that whoever is accessing that media is in the mood
to eat.
for your product or your service? That is exactly where you want to be.
That's very, yeah, exactly. I love it. All right, so restaurants. Listen up.
Restaurants and radio.
Restaurants
and for each
radio,
other.
room for each other. Exactly. And more.
Oh, well, this is terrible.
All right, yeah. This is fun. Thank you so much for joining me on this very first episode of the Radio Is Not Dead podcast. It was truly an honor to sit down with Sanford and Terry Cohen and hear their incredible story, from launching their first radio station to building a true hometown radio empire. Their passion, creativity, and deep roots in the community are exactly what keeps radio alive and thriving, even in today's digital world. I hope you found their journey as inspiring as I did, and a real reminder that in radio, as in life, it's the personal connection that matters the most. If you enjoyed this episode, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you won't miss any of the upcoming conversations with radio professionals around the country. And if you'd like even more behind-the-scenes stories, updates from the road, and reflections of the heart of local radio, follow me on Substack, too. Links are right below. Thanks again for being here, and remember, radio is not dead. It's alive and well, waiting for you to tune in. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, stay tuned.